And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Red Devils for your latest Manchester United news and updates ahead of Ruben Amorim's first match on Sunday. It is finally getting to D-Day, really, as we really start to build up towards his first game in charge of the club. He'll be giving his first press conference as Manchester United manager this afternoon. We will be live shortly afterwards, so make sure that you come and join us for that. And lots of updates expected. Hopefully, an injury update. The likes and availability of a INEOS, for example, Kobe Mainoo, Luke Shaw. Should get information, all three of those players, this afternoon, as well as get an idea on where the squad is with regards to their preparations and what we can sort of expect to see on Sunday. And I'm really interested to see some of the questions he gets asked in terms of the expectations of him, what his expectations are. Maybe asking him what the club expectations are for him. What's the sort of plan? Do we have a 3, 4, 5-year plan? Is it immediate success? And some of the answers he gives might hint towards an idea of what exactly we want and what the plan is for the next few years. Coming up on the show today, we're going to be giving you updates on Chris Rigg, giving you updates on a potential Dream 11 that Manchester United are apparently looking to cook up for next season, according to Manchester Evening News. We've also going to be talking a little bit about INEOS locked in a blame game, and lots of chats regarding Ten Hag and the sacking of him and what the sort of situation was. And we also had an update, for example, in terms of training. Bruno Fernandes was pictured with the squad yesterday, so it looks like obviously everyone was back, and he was back a little bit earlier actually, and has been training with Ruben Amorim this week. And he got special permission actually from Roberto Martinez to leave after they drew to Croatia and sort of qualified for the next round of the UEFA Nations League. So good for see. I mean, he's going to be our most important player, isn't he? In the next few weeks. So really important that he gets an opportunity to come in and make his mark and get up to scratch with exactly what the plan is, because we need to make sure that everybody is aligned as soon as possible. That's sort of always sort of the biggest challenge for any new manager, is to get their system and alignment within the players across as soon as possible. And the sooner you can get that done, the better. Right, let's go into some of the news, shall we? And we're going to start with the whole sort of INEOS sort of debate. So according to the Daily Mail, INEOS are currently locked in a big debate, well, the Chiefs of Manchester United, with regards to what happened and who's to blame for the whole Ten Hag fiasco, where we handed him a new contract and then sacked him just 4 months later. And apparently there's a lot of conversations and a lot of different sort of blaming happening within the club regarding what the decision was, who made the decisions, for example, who pushed for him to get the contract, only for him to get sacked. Because there was a review process. This is the weird thing. There was a review process about, this is where Ten Hag is, for example. These are some of the other managers around. And after that, they then decided, no, let's going to go back at Ten Hag. But 4 months later, after the worst possible start of the season, we end up sacking him. So it's been a disaster, and that cost us about £15 million in between, getting him and more, probably, and as well getting Ruben Amorim. So a terrible decision in the end. And at the end of the day, it's a bit of a moot point, to be honest, with regards to everyone sort of playing the blame game, because we've made the decision, and we've got the new manager, and we need to all be focused on here. But I think it very much is important regards to, not so much in terms of who's at fault. How did it happen? Why did it happen? What were the steps taken which saw us hand a new manager a new contract, only to sack him a few months later? What do we learn? That's the main thing. What are the learnings? Because this is the biggest frustration, I think, as United fans when it comes to the club, is it never seems to be that we learn things from bad decisions previously, that we consistently make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Now, if you start making new mistakes, it's frustrating as a fan, but at least you're not repeating the old. The idea is that as soon as you make a major mistake, you learn from it, make sure that sort of mistake does not happen again, because we cannot become a club which continuously makes the same mistakes, which we've seen with some of our transfers, for example, some of the managerial appointments, and we've gotten a lot wrong in the last decade, and very little right, to be perfectly honest. So it's nice to hear that there is obviously active conversation with regards to how the situation unfolded, why it unfolded like it did, and more to the point, how do we avoid that kind of situation moving forward? We can't be sitting there paying 15-20 million pounds every 2 or 3 seasons to sack a manager, to hire a new manager, to buy out of contracts and the likes. It's just not feasible, and that's the biggest problem. Is we waste so much money as a club on stupid things because we get things wrong. If we hadn't given Aaron Ten Hag that new contract, for example, it would have been far cheaper to have sacked him. If we had potentially, decided to terminate his contract at the end of the season last season and gone after Ruben Amorim, for example, it might have been a lot cheaper, for example, in terms of having to buy him out of his contract mid-season and compensate, Sporting for him. So that continues to be the frustration, and hopefully, this is going to be the last time we're going to see such a situation, and hopefully we're a little bit more organised, a little bit more decisive. We've got to be more decisive. At the end of the day, if you're going to back Ten Hag, you got to give him to Christmas, for example. And if you're not going to back him, cool. Say you're not going to back him and go and get somebody in the summer. You can have a full pre-season, because now we're sitting here having to do a whole system change or a whole personnel change and a brand new coach staff in the dugout this weekend to what it was a few weeks ago. And that's just chaotic. And we continue to be this chaos-driven club because we cannot make decisive decisions. And then once we make decisions, we can't then follow through on them. So it's not ideal at all. And we really hope that these kind of things are going to be behind us. So in INEOS defense, they haven't been in charge for less than a year. So, this is the beginnings of it. And hopefully 2-3 years down the process, we have a ownership and a structure which is far more aligned with regards to how it's all going to sort of work and the likes. But we have to wait and see exactly what's going on there. But the main thing is that this is the situation, and I'm hoping that we're not spending too much time on trying to sort out what's going on, because it doesn't really help, to be perfectly honest. Let's go to some other news, shall we? And there's a bit of an update with regard to one of the youngsters that we are looking to potentially sign. And it's an interesting one, because we continue to go with the youngsters. So Manchester United are currently linked to a 17-year-old wonder kid currently playing for Sunderland, whose name is Chris Rigg. He's been very, very good for Sunderland, and they are apparently not obviously keen on him leaving in January, though, but United apparently are looking to potentially pay that 30 million fee to Sunderland and to try and get the deal over the line. Now, apparently Chris Rigg himself would be far more receptive to the move in the summer than in January, which is up to sort of Sunderland as well. And so apparently it doesn't rule out a January move, but comes down to the financials, for example, in terms of United paying £30 million. In theory, if we can get him in on January, I would loan him straight back to Sunderland, for example, but get the deal done before we continue to have another great season. So I don't know if you're going to have £30 million and a 17-year-old available, to be perfectly honest, unless we can consider it offloads. But it's an interesting prospect, isn't it? Because we're now being linked with far more youngsters, very young players. You think of your Xerxes, not an old player. Matisse looks not even particularly old, to be honest. And even that Chido Obi Martin from Arsenal, for example, that kind of signing, very much looking for a young squad and the next generation. Now, I like the approach, to be honest. I mean, I think everyone gets excited with youngsters, and it's always a great idea, for example, to try and sign youngsters. But the issue is you don't win a Premier League, you don't win a Champions League with a bunch of 21-year-olds. That is often that's just factual. You've got to have experience mixed in to the youth. And that's kind of where my worry is at the moment, is that we're continuing to go and look at all these young players and the likes. But the problem is who comes in alongside them, who is going to provide that experience next to them. And, when there's really tough games, tough moments, who's going to sort of step into those sort of situations and take charge. Because it's all very well when things are going well, and you've got these youngsters playing well and stuff like that. But when the chips are down, that's when you need your experienced players to step up. And at the moment, they kind of just feels that there is a lack of experience or lack of leadership within senior players at the club. So it's cool to hear. I mean, for example, I mean that whole 60-70 million pound deal for Sphere Naipan and the likes. So it's again, it's a very different transfer strategy to what we've seen previously. We did go on a bit of a run where we tried to sign all these sort of big names from around the world. Your Zlatan Ibrahimovic's, your Radamel Falcao's, Anel Di Maria's, these sort of players to try and really get us back to being competitive off the bat and immediately. Didn't work. So now we've changed the tactic, and now we're looking at youngsters. How do we go and find the next best youngsters in the world and turn them into a title challenging squad? But I do still think that the value of experience cannot be said enough. It cannot be overstated, because you've got to make sure that next to these really exciting youngsters, you've got calm heads, experienced players who can help them, move into the Premier League. Now, you talk about the class of '92, for example, and how good that role was. But again, look at the players that were around them. Your Jaap Stams in the defense, your Eric Cantona's, your Roy Keanes and the likes. Your Andy Coles, those sort of players. There was a lot of experience in and around that squad. Your Peter Schmeichels, for example, when they came through to really get them up to speed. And eventually get to winning that Champions League back in '99. So it's about having the blend of experience next to you, so that you've got these young, exciting players, but at the same time you've got the experience around them to help nurture them and get to their full ability. Because you don't want to just take these youngsters and leave them out to dry, for example, and put them out in front of Old Trafford, in front of all these thousands of people, and they just completely buckle because they're just not ready, to be honest, for the chance that they've been given. So it's always a tricky one, isn't it? And very interested to see how we sort of navigate that, where we are trying to look to bring in a lot of youngsters, but we've got to try and find experience. And there isn't a lot of experience in the squad in terms of your sort of senior players that are currently starting right now. Bruno Fernandes is an older player. Marcus Rashford's under a lot of pressure though at the moment. Harry Maguire's not playing at the moment. She's one of the more experienced players. So you kind of got your Casemiros and your Fernandes, regardless to a certain degree, but he's quite new to the club. Those are kind of all of a sudden your senior players, your Diego Dallos, who lots of people are saying shouldn't actually be starting. If we then go into the system, we're going to have Mazraoui ahead of him, who is a senior player, but again, new to the club. So there's a lot to try and navigate with regards to all of that. So moving on to something different is Manchester Evening News have put together the apparent Dream 11 for United. And apparently it looks something like this. And obviously there has to be a couple of acquisitions, because they've got Alphonso Davies at left back, or left wing rather, and they've got Kwende Sporting in that right wing position, and they've got Gyökeres up front. So that would mean going and have to sign those three players. Now, none of those players are going to be cheap signings, to be perfectly honest. Interesting enough, for example, this starting 11, this Dream 11, for example, has Ahmad down the right. I think in theory, if you get things right, you're going to have a Rashford in there. Now, this on paper looks amazing, and in theory, it's only 3 more acquisitions. Pretty big acquisitions, in fairness. I don't think we'll be able to get a Kwende and a Gyökeres. I don't think we're going to be able to go and just completely decimate, that Sporting squad and go and sort of pick and choose. One of them, maybe. Both of them, very unlikely. What do you think of that side? Because on paper, it looks great. It's interesting the fact that, I'm not sure Ahmad necessarily will be the starter. I think he'll continue to come off the bench. Although the way he's playing, to be fair, if he can keep it up, then he does become a starter. But Rashford at this stage, would probably will get the chance before he gets that chance. Very interested to see how Bruno Fernandes is going to go in this role. He is playing sort of sometimes slightly more ahead than sort of a traditional 4-3-3, where he's kind of playing in behind, in theory, that 3 up front. So in theory, he's a lot more innovative, because suddenly he's part of that front 3, which hopefully could see him scoring a lot of goals and getting far more goal involvements and getting more involved in the attack. Where this will happen, we'll have to wait on Sunday, because that's when everything will be revealed, with us taking on Ipswich at I think Top's 4. I think Top's 4 kickoff on Sunday. And speaking of the signings, though, to be fair, and speaking of Gyökeres, the new Sporting Lisbon manager, Teixeira, has actually opened up about him, and this is what he had to say. So, the new Sporting manager, Teixeira, was asked about Gyökeres in terms of potential exit in January, and he said the following. He said, "We are prepared to welcome in today to train for the first time and we are very happy to have him here. He is also very happy with the season he is having representing Sporting and his national team. He is very happy to be here. What we want is to have him for as long as possible. Obviously, that's exactly what they want. Whether they're going to get that, I don't think so. I don't think he'll move in January at this rate. Maybe he does, but I'll be very surprised. I think come the summer, though, it'll be very interesting. Now, I think from his point of view, Manchester United makes all the sense in the world. Ruben Amorim has got the best out of him, for example. Manchester United is one of the biggest clubs in the world. It's one of those, why wouldn't you move with your old manager to one of the biggest clubs in the world? But you're not the only club after him. There is a lot of attention, apparently. Arsenal, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, PSG. These are all big clubs. I do still think that the Manchester United remains the most attractive option. Yes, we are a bit of a shit show, to be honest, and you're going to get more success if you probably go to Barcelona or Bayern Munich or PSG. You will win trophies. You'll probably win leagues there. You're not guaranteed to win anything if you go in Chelsea. You're not guaranteed to win anything if you go to Arsenal, to be perfectly honest. So I don't see why he would move to the Premier League and not join up with Ruben Amorim. That for me wouldn't make sense. Manchester United, despite how bad we are at the moment, it still has a very big pool from a size of the club scenario. And if you're then there with your previous manager, for example, who's gotten the best out of you, knows how to get the best out of you, then that makes more sense in terms of for me for your career, go and join someone who and be part of the project, getting Manchester United back up to the top. And you'll be on good wages, for example. They'll pay well, and so I think it makes sense, a lot of it. Whether United will be able to get it done, only time will tell. Assuming we want to get it done, to be honest, I think we would. I think we do need to know that we need to get another striker in, maybe offload Joshua Zirkzee, and see if we can, how much of the money we can claw back. But that's been enough for today. We'll be live, as I said, a little bit later for the Ruben Amorim press conference. So come and join us a little bit later, and then obviously we'll have our preview for Ipswich tonight as well. Please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well.